Welcome back. Out to the workshop again, of course. What else do I do? I have an update. I was a little bit more annoyed than I thought the other day with the output of my efforts for making the bar that had the spacings, just juggling things for the bench dogs. And I finished installing the bushes in the bar and measured them up, and I was amazed at how bad it was. You can't see it visually, of course, until you really put your rule or tape on it, and each one of them would vary, pointing camera, vary by a small amount but significant amount. So I went to the local laser cutting company, as I mentioned in a previous video, and I'm getting them to price me 5 of these bars. 5 of the bars will mean that I can cut them down into specific lengths to give me exactly what I was going to attempt over there. The time and effort to do that versus the cost of getting them to do it, it doesn't make sense, I suppose, at this stage. I think I know where I went wrong, or I started. That was where I went wrong. But I think I went wrong when I used my clever idea of drilling the rule at the etched marks, and when I'm looking at it I can see ever so slightly, for instance there, you may not be able to see it, but that's slightly out. This one's definitely a little bit biased one way, but anyway, long story short, when I utilized that as my means of giving the progressive marks, I located because the hole is slightly longer than, or bigger than the diameter of the scribe, the tip of the scribe, it meant that there was some movement possible. But my logic was that if I pull the scribe down into the bottom of the hole, I'd find that perfect little spot to self-locate. I also had to move the rule to get the full length. Long story short, it doesn't matter where I went wrong. It's, can I do it again and get it correct? I may on a wet winter's day some stage in the future, but for the meanwhile, that's going to be put on a very back burner, and I'm going to try and move forward, depending on the price of the companies, what they're going to charge, of course, because I'm not silly much. But I've got other things that would be much more positive and to do, and that's just one of those things. The accuracy would probably be enough for what I'm doing here, and that word probably is the bit that haunts me, because it probably at some point will show up as well as being an error. The really annoying thing is the measurement from that far one to the one that was up here, which would have been the 1500 for the 345, the what was it? What did I say? It would have been 9, 12, 15. That one there was spot on. So for squaring it up, that bar will still work with the maximum size 345 type method. So this is still, it's not wasted. Plus the effort that I went to straighten it will also not go to waste. And in fact, I might even go a little bit further and straighten it down to less than the 3 thou that it is roughly at the moment. So It's not a garden stake yet. As I mentioned, they might turn out to be the sunk cost of this. It's not quite a garden stake. And as I said, the 1500 one is still very good. But I'm getting another one made, so it's going to be redundant, and it might become a garden stake. Plus, the edges of the new bar, if I get them, will be as straight can be, because it will be laser cut CNC type accuracy. The chap did say that the cuts aren't perfectly square or plumb. He said there is a slight, he said, a taper to them when he was talking about holes, etc. So that was interesting observation. He said that they can get machines, their machine goes down to around about 0.2 of a mil, for their diameter, but I would have thought they would have been very much plumb. And anyway, and he also said that the laser cut will actually give us some hardening to the surface around the cut itself. And I thought, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense. Anything that heats up steel will localize, will give localized hardening. So that was good information to have. But the bar that's coming, if I get them made, of course, I'll be able to test against and use the aluminium section to assess how straight it is, and I'm assuming it's going to be pretty darn good. And then I can also assess the straightness of this, and double check and all the rest of it. That allows you to say which one is straight, etc. Anyway, I've watched enough videos. So that's, I'm a wee bit dejected, I've got to say, because I thought that the extent of the effort that I went to would have meant that I could have done it all in-house. I still may, as I said, on a wet winter's day, but we're just in the third week of spring, so that'll be on the back burner. But I may still try and etch some marks on some of these pieces of steel and just see how good I can get. It was an interesting exercise. Believe it or not, the threading of all these holes, and it did take a wee while, wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. And I'm quite pleased with my effort for that. And it meant that I have learnt something through this exercise. So it's not a completely wasted amount of time that I've spent here. I've learnt quite a bit, and I've got some of the tools necessary for other projects in the future. Yay. But yeah, wee bit annoyed nonetheless. Can't say I'm not. Ego gets a bit of a beating, but that can be a good thing. I'm over it already, sort of thing, because I'm already thinking of alternate ways of achieving within the workshop doing the same thing. I know you're hearing people say, but why are you even considering that? Well, if we take a 12mm nut, that's actually a 10, I think. If we take a 12mm nut, anyway, regardless, it doesn't matter. We can drill the nut out and tap it to 14mm. Why? Because we can weld bond a nut and two nuts together, which can be, it's a long story, no, it's not a long story, but it's protracted. I can drill one of these nuts out, relatively easy, to clear on an 8mm shaft or threaded rod. Now I have got an adjustable guide holder, a guide holder that can be slid along and locked off with locking nuts. I know it's a pretty convoluted method, but it's a cheap, and it's really only the amount of time to work on these nuts. The rest of it is easy, but you can dial in where you put the guide holder right down to the hundredths of a millimeter and lock it off with your lock nuts. Can you not? I suggest that the heavier the rod, the better, and this can go in friction fit into a totally unrelated now, same sort of thing but unrelated, a 16 millimeter nut, which I'm going to have a fiddle with. I have here, pointing camera. Is this a good idea? Oh, probably not. Is it redundant? Probably, because I'll have those other bars. However, that's not going to stop me. The outer diameter of the knurled part of this guide is slightly bigger than a nut this size. If I can get that to sit down in it properly, then it might be that this also is a guide bush holder that then can also be put onto a rod with the other nut and slid along, locked off into position. Again, is that necessary? No. Is it wise? Probably not. Am I going to give it a quick go? Yes. Sad. It may be that I need to get a reaming tool. Oh God, here we go. To achieve this, an adjustable reaming tool, because I doubt that this diameter comes in a drill bit size. Although, that said, I've got a local company that does the incremental millimeter drill bits. So anyway, that's an idea. That's definitely an idea, because if I can thread that with a 14 by 1 mil thread, oh, I've done it here. Why not give it a go? The reason I'm using nuts is that the size is replicable, and if I well bond them to each other, we've got a set size this way in the, so we have to be accurate X and Y. I can achieve that by using a set of nuts, and wise or not, don't know, but therein lies the exercise. Here's the thing. I don't care whether it's successful. I just find it interesting. And it may be that later on I can use that knowledge that might be then biffed out with this little project, this version. I may be able to use it in another way. I don't know. It also may be a service to those that are watching and listening, that they're going, oh yeah, I've got a use for that. Not like that flaming Kiwi fellow who was driving himself nuts, but I can use that same approach for something else. It's also not an unreasonable thing. Okay, that's it. I'm going to have a really good tidy up here. I have to then construct, do something, a shelf along here. It's got to be around about 3 meters long, because I went and got the 3 meter long track saw rail guide for the track saw, and that's the only 3 meter space along there that I've got in the workshop that's easily accessible. Alternatively, I put it up there. Thinking about it. Can I slip it up there? That would possibly, maybe be a better way of doing it. Thinking. It's my decision. Anyway, that's where I'm at. waiting for a price next week from the laser cutting company, and to go from there. Ah well, these are the things that we come across when we're doing these clever things, is it not? Rightio, see you in the next video now. Bye.